I read 14 dark romance books in 14 days, and today I want to talk about Pretty Monster by Sheridan. This is a dark romance where the main character falls in love with a serial killer. He murders women. It's probably one of the darker books that I've read in the Bloody Valentines series. So if any of the content warnings over here are going to bother you or make you uncomfortable, definitely skip this one. We're going to get into some heavy stuff. While we're talking about content warnings, YouTube has a tendency to sort of shove videos like this to the side because it's not family friendly. So if this is the kind of book that you like, or you want to see more reviews about these sorts of books, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Not only does it help me out, it also helps train YouTube's algorithm to give you more dark romance content from me and other creators. And before we get into the plot and reviewing the book itself, I just want to be clear about one thing. I am making this video so that other people who like the dark romance subgenre can determine whether or not they want to read this book. It is not, just because I'm about to go on a rant about why I don't like it, it is not a condemnation of the author or anybody who actually likes this book. Just because I don't like it, it doesn't mean I'm judging you if you do. So just to be 100% clear, you like what you like, and don't let anybody on the internet tell you what to like or not like in a book. This review is not for the author. I'm not going to be very nice, and I'm not looking to hurt anybody's feelings. And if you love this book and listening to me trash talk it until I run out of breath is going to upset you, just go ahead and skip this one. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the review because, as you can tell, I have some pretty strong opinions about this book. We're going to go over the plot, and then we're going to go over what it is that bothered me so much. Spoiler, it has nothing to do with the guy being a serial killer. If you desperately want to read this book, or you're super sensitive to spoilers and you don't want anything spoiled, you can use the timestamps down below to skip over the plot summary. But I gotta be honest, it's almost impossible to spoil this plot. The twists that I think were meant to be in the book are so clearly telegraphed ahead of time, and so ham-fisted that it's almost impossible for you not to see the twist coming, or not to see the surprise coming. So yeah, if you want to read it yourself and you're really, really hard against spoilers, you can absolutely skip the plot summary. Use the timestamps down below, but I don't think you need to worry about it too much. Yeah, there's nothing you're not going to see coming a mile away, several miles away. So let's get into the characters. So you've got Kaya, who is a tattoo artist who has been working at the same shop since she was 17, because apparently in New York you can be a professional tattoo artist at 17, even though you can't legally consent to get a tattoo, but that's neither here nor there. Obsessed with Kaya are 3 different men, and I say 3 with purpose. We'll get into that in a minute. So you've got Crew, who is her workmate. He has a station in the shop next to hers. He's also a tattoo artist, and he is infatuated with her. He wants to date her, and Kai keeps telling him no because Crew wants a serious relationship, and she just wants to kind of like sleep around a little bit and like have her kicks and have her fun because she's still really young. So she's 23, I think, 23, 24, something like that. She's in her early 20s. And she's not ready to settle down, and that's fine. Absolutely, have your fun. But basically, she thinks Crew is endgame and wants to wind up with him eventually, and she just kind of expects him to like wait around for her while she sows her wild oats. So that's a thing. And then the other guy who's been obsessed with her since she was 17. I keep bringing this up because it's really uncomfortable the way that it's described. Like basically this broken waif child thing came into the tattoo shop and all of these grown-ass men fell in love with her. Anyway, so Viper is the second in command of a local motorcycle club, and they're really dangerous. They're like 1%ers. They're into the hardcore stuff. So Viper's really dangerous. He's also really big and really strong and really ripped. And he has determined that Kaya is someday, once she's done being a wild child, she will be his old lady, whether she wants to be or not. New on the scene is Alex, which is Kaya's across the hall neighbor. He is smoking hot. He's very flirty and casual and very charming. And Reed, who is Kaya's psycho stalker, who is also a serial killer, and preys specifically on women. And I mentioned these two together for a reason. Like I said, the twist, such as it is telegraphed way far ahead of time. There's no question that Alex is Reed and Reed is Alex, and he's basically just playing two sides of the same coin. And once you realize that, which you realize very early on, there's no subtlety to it. You never really question it. Once you realize that, like, all of his scenes with her as Alex, as neighbor Alex, nice guy neighbor Alex, take on a completely different light. Aside from the fact that he preys on women and is a serial killer, the internal monologue stuff with Alex Reed gives very Zaid Meadow vibes. This book is basically what Haunting Adeline was trying to be and kind of pulled back on and was too afraid to go all the way. There are no boundaries with this one. It just dives right in. So Alex Reed and Crew Ledger, the tattoo guy in the station next to hers, both gave me an extreme case of the ick. The only one who didn't really was Viper, and he probably should have, but he, of the three options that she had, I guess, feast or famine, he was the least offensive, which I don't know if that's saying much. Like, he actually did try to look after her and actually did try to, like, be supportive and be respectful and, like, protect her from the danger that she got herself into, threw herself headlong into, I should say. Aside from the fact that he had every intention of basically kidnapping her and forcing her to be his biker bride, Viper was an okay guy, kinda. The other two were shit. They were just terrible. All of them were terrible. The problem is that even if I had decided to relate to one of these characters, even if I did like one of the characters, want to get invested in them, I would not have been able to do so because the writing in this book is so bad. It is impossible to dig out any positive or redeemable or relatable or likable character traits because it is buried under a mountain of terrible, terrible prose. The character descriptions were juvenile. The dialogue was awful. It's riddled with phrases like "good for the whole" doesn't mean it's good for the soul. And it puts these things forth like it's supposed to be profound, but it's just really trashy. And yes, I can absolutely admit that I am old and uptight and maybe a little pretentious, but that does not change the fact that this is the glorification of the lowest common denominator. I guess if you're over there like hardcore fangirling on Honey Boo Boo, maybe this is your thing, but it did not work for me at all. Just for the record, I only did not DNF this book because it was a special request by one of you. I know who you are. You asked to remain anonymous, but I'm never going to forgive you. And I just want to remind you that I get to pick the next one, so fair warning, you've got it coming. Okay, back to the plot, because I'm sure everyone is just dying to know. Crew and Viper have spent basically the past years while Kaya is growing into an adult, and becoming a woman, blossoming into a woman before their very eyes. So they have spent the past 6 years like dick waving back and forth over who's gonna get to claim Kaya. Frankly, I'm not sure I understand why. There's nothing special about Kaya other than she's hot and has a lot of tattoos. Meanwhile, while these two knuckleheads are over here arguing over who's gonna get to claim her, Alex Reed, hottie neighbor and serial killer extraordinaire, super stalker, by the way, is over here making moves. Like, he's taking her out on dates, he's making her laugh, he's making her think, like, maybe I am actually ready for a relationship because, you know, she has no red alert warning on her, and red flags are just delicious. Basically, as Alex, he's taken her out and showing her a good time and, like, romantic walks on the riverside. And as Reed, he's sneaking into her apartment and, like, dipping his fingers in her honey pot while she's sleeping, and sometimes while she's not sleeping and is just pretending to sleep. And all of that is just, you know, that it's fine, but, like, you can't even get into it because it's so badly written. So Guy's having a grand old time stringing these 3 dudes along, despite the fact that at least one of them is demonstrably dangerous, Viper. She has no problem just leading him on. And eventually she gets drunk and sleeps with Crew, and then he promptly goes like super possessive, like I've laid my claim on you, now you're mine. And she's like, no, I don't think so. And so Crew like breaks into her apartment trying to hunt her down and stuff, and Alex Reed, the psychopath serial killer boyfriend, is having none of that, so he murders Crew. And then we discover after that Crew and his brother had this sort of like pact where Crew got into a bunch of debt and then had to borrow some money from his brother, who is a human trafficker apparently. And the deal was basically if Crew reneged on his repayment, that this brother was going to take Kaya as collateral, basically, as payment for him reneging on his debt. And because Crew died, he can't pay back the debt anymore, so the brother's gonna come and get Kaya. So Alex Reed kills both Crew, who's being ridiculous and possessive, and he hit her, by the way, punched her in the face because she wouldn't answer his texts. So Alex Reed murders Crew for laying a hand in anger on Kaya, and then murders the brother because he's going to kill her or try to human traffic her. And I guess that's logical, given the premise that we're going with. Like I said, the guy reads very Zaid Meadows. And then, just for good measure, serial killer Ken goes and murders Viper because reasons. I don't really understand why. Other than he was interested in Kaya and wanted to take her to his biker lair. I didn't understand it. Viper was no threat to her, not immediate threat anyway. But I guess he just couldn't bear the idea of anybody else touching her or wanting her. So now 3 people have died, because of this dude's obsession with Kaya. Again, we have no reason for any of this. Like, there's nothing unique or special about her other than she's hot and has a lot of tattoos. That's all she's got. So basically, after the 3rd guy dies, Kaya all of a sudden figures out that, like, oh, Alex is the stalker, Alex is the killer. And she confronts him with it, and he's like, well, yeah. And then he, like, confesses that he's killed all these women, and he, like, really gets off on it. And she's just okay with it. Like, she's just like, oh, okay, well, don't do it anymore. And there's no, like, processing. There's no, like, shock. She's just like, okay, well, don't do that again. And he goes, I don't need to, baby. Now I have you. He had originally planned on murdering her, by the way, and then fell in love with her. And apparently her love filled the void that he was trying to fill with murder. And it's so just gagging. I mean, it's just so bad.
One eternity later.
That's basically the whole plot. It's 400 pages summed up in a couple minutes, and there's nothing more complex going on. It's a lot of blinking with various men. She thinks it's 4 men. It's actually 3. Doesn't matter. She's sleeping with all of them. Not slut-shaming, by the way. That's just fine. The problem is the sex scenes are universal. Repetitive, and use the same descriptions over and over. I swear if I had to read her detonating or shattering like glass one more time, I was going to throw something. So throughout the book, aside from what I consider bad writing and terrible dialogue, the characters just kind of randomly give up on showing and default instead to telling. And rather than just like letting us see things roll out and figure it out on our own, they say things like this. There's nothing quite like a little childhood trauma to fuck with a grown man and turn him into a walking red flag. And I can totally see that being in the author's notes to themselves in the outline, but like, and yeah, your character can be self-aware, but like, do we really need for you to, like, use those phrases in that way? Like, why is that necessary? Let me figure it out on my own. He can be a walking red flag. That's fine. He shouldn't be calling himself a walking red flag. Readers should be allowed to slowly unravel a character and what drives them and their motivations on their own. That doesn't work if the characters just come right out on page 29 and tell us all their deepest, darkest secrets and, like, diagnose themselves. And they do this over and over. The characters just come right out and tell you exactly what's wrong and exactly, you know, why they're so flawed. And they don't leave any room for you to figure it out on your own or weave it into the story. They just come right out and say it. It's really annoying. There's also stuff in here that just rankled me from that's really low and gross and crass. And again, this is just me being uptight, so pardon me while I just be an uptight little old woman for a little bit, but at some point Alex Reed comes over and he's like flirting with Kaya, and for some reason he like discovers this massive suction cup dildo like rumpled in her bedsheets, and why he was in there in the first place I don't remember, but basically his way of flirting with her is to like waggle it at her and then like stick it on the wall up above her front door, which I guess sure, classy, and then because crew broke into her apartment and busted the door, she has to get a worker to come over and replace the door. And like this dong is just hanging above the door frame. She doesn't take it down. Like it never occurred to her to take it down. A bunch of Viper's motorcycle club guys come over and, you know, they're installing a security system because she mentioned that she's got a stalker and he's trying to protect her. And like, the dong's just hanging up there above the door and they're just walking around like it's no big deal. This thing is there the entire time. Like it gets put up there in like the second scene with him and like it just stays there and they keep bringing it up like it's this monumental thing that's supposed to like make you smile, and it's just like, girl, that's gross. You didn't even wash it first. But I guess this is just how like serial killers flirt. Also, he keeps like breaking in through her window and she locks it and then it magically unlocks itself and he lets himself in. And it's like, if you didn't want him in your apartment, a hammer and nails would take care of that real quick. And it just never occurs to her to just nail the window shut. And please tell me why in every book like this, and you're going to have to pardon me because I'm just going off on one now. Why in every book like this is the main character a super hacker? Like, that's a specific set of skills, my dude. Like, that takes time and effort and practice and years of learning how to navigate and get around things and like bypass stuff. And like, yeah, you can go download a little auto run script like off the internet to like get through stuff. But like once there's like layered security and like stuff that's actually designed to keep people out, like it gets a little more complicated than that. You can't just like moonlight as a hacker while you're also out killing all these women. And oh, by the way, he's a military guy, so like the army owns him. And like, why is that always a thing? Why are they always hackers? Like, oh, I hacked into her security feed. It's like, okay, but like, how? And yeah, I get that like home security systems are not that secure, but they made specific effort to like make it a little less penetrable, and he just walked right in like it's no problem. And like, none of this makes any sense. Like, is this how he's getting his money? Is that why he has these skills? We don't know. And it's never explained. Like, this is not what, like, he was a military guy. He was like a sniper or something in the military, or a infantryman. I can't remember. Anyway, the guy was in the military, but it never like discusses the fact that like, this is what he did. Like he was in MI. None of that ever comes up. And oh, by the way, he's been on the run because like, he murdered his mom while he was still active duty. So like the military is looking for him. The cops are looking for him. We don't even know where he's getting his money. Like, how are you paying your apartment rent? How are you taking her out to dinner? Like, we don't know. None of this makes any sense. He can also scale brick walls like Spider-Man and like move across the room in a single bound, because I guess if you're gonna play with serial killer boyfriend Ken, he doesn't need to have normal human physical limitations, and that's just okay. By page 56, I was leaving myself notes like, this is so dumb and I'm so bored. And it just never stops. This book is so mind-numbingly repetitive, and the characters are so completely insufferable. I could not wait to finish it. Every time Kaya is presented with the opportunity to make a decision that has any flicker of self-preservation, she turns around and goes the other way, and by the end of it, you just want Reed to kill her because you're so tired of reading about her. Okay, I'm done. Thank you for listening to my rant. This book definitely was not for me, and maybe I'm too uptight. Maybe I'm too stuck up for it. I don't know. If you're really into the, like, can't look away car crash aspect of reality TV and Jerry Springer, maybe this book is for you. I'm not really sure who else it's for. There are better versions of Serial Killer Boyfriend out there. This is not it. That's all I got for this one. Like and subscribe, and Patreon and Discord and all that. Links are down below.